On this episode, we welcome Season 8 with stats, discussions, and a visit from some old friends.
So if you're like us and want to know how or even why we've stuck around for 8 seasons, you'll dig this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand on a vacation in 2001 and vowed never to leave until I caught all the Pokemon here. And well, there's still a lot around.
Is that still a thing?
I don't know. And it wasn't in 2001 either. I just made that up, but still. there's got to be Pokemon here.
And I met Knut, an American who came to Thailand on a 1-year teaching contract almost 25 years ago. Fell in love with the apparently endless stream of new foreigners in Thailand who have never heard of the Bangkok Podcast. So I never left.
So you're basically here just dedicating your life to being a PR maven.
I can't believe it when I meet, and I meet a fair number of foreigners in Thailand. I'm shocked at the number who've never heard of our podcast. Like, what is up? How could that be?
How could that be? I got to say though, man, I mean, since this is the first episode of Season 8, let's do it. We should do a new segment called Real Talk with Greg and Ed. But I think podcasts remain the redheaded stepchild of the media landscape. Like, there's just still so many people that don't even know what one is. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two things that keep the audience smaller. I wouldn't say our audience is small, but smaller than some other venues. Is just the fact that it's long form, and a lot of people just want to listen to, watch a 30-second or 1-minute video. And the second thing, of course, like we said before, is audio only, and video just dominates social media. Just dominates.
Yeah. Well, we do what we do, and we do it well, but it is not for everyone, obviously.
Alrighty, want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get every episode a day early, behind-the-scenes photos of our interviews, a heads up to send questions to upcoming guests, and access to our Discord server to chat with me, Greg, and other listeners around the world. But best of all, patrons also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and Bangkok topics. On this week's bonus show, we chatted about Greg sleeping until noon on the heels of a whirlwind 2-day work trip to Chiang Rai, which was then followed by 9 hours at immigration waiting to renew his work permit. Discussions of the strict new helmet law, which may or may not be enforced, the strict new laws about marijuana use in Thailand, which also may or may not be enforced, and comments on the increasing amount of YouTube videos by expats discussing how hard it's becoming to get by in Thailand and whether they should pack up and move elsewhere. To learn how to become a patron and get all this good stuff, plus full access to over 800 bonus and regular pack episodes, click the support button at the top of our website.
That's right. And as always, if you have a comment, a show idea, or just want to say hi, head to BangkokPodcast.com. There's a little microphone button on the bottom right of the screen. Click that, leave us a voicemail, and we'll play that on the show, as we will at the end of this episode. All right, man. Well, believe it or not, man, this is episode 1 of the 8th season of the Bangkok Podcast, which is absolutely insane. And so, as it is tradition for the first episode of every season, Ed and I are going to talk a little bit about the show and how things are going, a bit of a look back on past seasons, some stats, and a look forward at what is coming up for Season 8. I can't believe this, man. Like, every year we get to a new number, and I'm just like, 8 years we've been doing this. This is just wasn't even in the realm of possibility when we first sat down and started doing this.
For sure. I can't believe that I've completed 5 seasons. So this will be my 6th season.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, man. And many of the episodes we've talked, about how we started, about how, our friend Tony Joh and I sort of were bored, and we both had the idea of doing a podcast, and we sat in the office of Greg, the owner of Sunrise Tacos on Sukhumvit, and recorded our first episode with no idea what we were doing.
Well, that's a good trivia question. Where was the first episode recorded? I like that.
Yeah. Greg Lang, I think his name is. I don't know him very well, but But yeah, he let us use his office on Sukhumvit Soy 12, I think, just where the first Sunrise Tacos location was open. And yeah, we just sat in the back, and Tony and I had the little cross stitch frames with pantyhose pulled over them as popper stoppers.
Oh, funny.
On the end of coat hangers that were attached to some microphones. And yeah, we just started talking. So yeah, man, 8 seasons. And I should also say too that people sometimes ask, well, how long is a season? Because like you said, you've been here for 5 seasons, but this is number 8, even though we've been going for 15 years now. Our first show was in 2010. So each season is about 72 or 76 episodes ish. And the reason that's the length of a season is because when we got to 72 episodes, Tony in season 1 moved to Japan. And so we were like, okay, well, that was a fun little experiment.
Right. That was you thought that was going to be the end.
Yeah, that's right. We're like, that's the end of the Bangkok podcast. Good times. On to bigger and better things. And Tony left. And then a few years later, I met Evo, who we'll hear about a little bit more in a little bit. And we started up season 2 of the podcast.
Right.
And after about 72 or 74 episodes, he moved back to America. And I was like, okay, well, season 2 was about the same length as season 1.
That became the standard.
Exactly. That became the default. And then you came on in season 3, and I was just like, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's just keep a good thing going. So that's how we got that number.
Yeah, I mean, it basically means that just for me, now I have, in terms of main shows, I've done, I think, almost 400. I think I've done something like maybe 380 main shows, something like that, for just myself.
God, that's crazy, isn't it? And I haven't really, I don't really pay a lot of attention to like the landscape of podcasting in Bangkok and stuff. And every once in a while I'll hear about something new or some new podcast or something like that. And I don't really pay a lot of attention to them. But I got to say, over the years, there's been a lot of podcasts that have come and gone.
For sure.
There might be a few out there. I don't know. But many have come and gone. And most that have started have long since left the stage.
Well, I got to say this. Even though I've now been co-host a lot longer than those other 2 dudes were, it was you guys that built the audience. You know, because I have several friends who started podcasts. Some of them are still doing it, but they really just have a very small number of listeners. You and I have friends, super knowledgeable friends, who had podcasts with great information, and they just couldn't build up an audience. And I got to be honest, although the audience has increased in the last 5 years since I've been doing it, it was pretty well established. You already had a couple hundred patrons, I think, by the time I started. So there's some magic that you guys had in the first 2 seasons. And I'm being perfectly honest. I'm not trying to be modest, but I think getting a show off the ground, that is the hard part.
I'm not disagreeing. Yeah, you're right. It's not easy to do, but I think really the secret sauce is consistency. And just understanding that, like, we're not doing this for money. You do a podcast for like opening a website. Like, you do it because you want to build a project and work on something kind of cool, and you have a little bit of a passion for it. Because unless you're like in the top, 50 or 100 podcasts in the world, you're not going to be making any money out of it.
Right.
So
maybe it's consistency. I mean, I don't know what the key was. I think that 2010 was still fairly early in the podcast game. And of course, YouTube was around, but there, was not as much Thai content. Right. So maybe the timing was right for Thai content.
Yeah, maybe. And what we're finding now is, I got to be honest with you. I think actually sort of like the trend is, at least for us, is there's just heavy competition from YouTube. And we can't compete with YouTube because YouTube is visual. Everyone's got a full HD camera studio in their pocket. It's easy to get really good sound. And so it's an audio. So it's really easy, not easy, but it's very, very possible for an average Joe to make a really good looking video production.
Possible. Yeah. Well, like I said in the show intro, being audio only, it is a niche, and being long form. But the truth is, Okay. You and I are fans of some of those YouTubes. I mean, Bangkok Pat. Bangkok Pat comes to mind. But I think most people, I'm going to be immodest now. Most people cannot compete with our just depth of knowledge. And I mean, I would say hard-earned wisdom, because like our wisdom is the wisdom that comes from like making every conceivable mistake that you can make. So I'm not going to downgrade that. Like I've earned my scars. And so I think our combined wisdom, I don't think many people can offer that.
No, I totally agree. And I think that's one thing we're most proud of, is that we go into areas of Thai culture that other videos don't or can't, just because of the format structure. But, you know, we talk to a lot of people who have very esoteric insights into Thai culture and,
right.
And about learning about it and educating ourselves and solving mysteries. So I think we're both very proud of that, as we should be. The battle we're always fighting, the uphill that we're always running up, is that, of course, with YouTube, it's just click here, click, you're watching the video.
That's right.
With our show, it's like, click here to download a podcast player. Oh, which one do I want? Okay, I'll get this one. Click here to subscribe to the episode, to the show. Okay. And click here to download to the episode that you want to hear. Oh, click here to download all the back episodes. Yeah. So they can click to on YouTube as well, but it can't compete with Bangkok Pat's colorful history walks around Bangkok or something like that.
Right. Well, we're just doing our own thing.
Yes, we are, and we will continue to do it. So with that in mind, though, we're going to get into some interviews in a little bit here, but really quick, just before we get to those, I want to go over some stats that I pulled out of our hosts this afternoon, and it's some pretty interesting numbers here, and a couple of staggering numbers, actually, when you think of it. So on Libsyn, which is our podcast host, that's where our main show lives and is distributed through all the podcast platforms. The total number of regular episodes, 524.
Damn.
Total episodes of regular shows that are available for free to everyone. On Patreon, which is where we keep our bonus shows, and those go only to Patreon subscribers, there's 361 bonus episodes on Patreon.
Huge. And so you did not do bonus shows in the early days?
No, we didn't. And that's interesting. I got another stat on that in a little bit. The bonus show started sort of like halfway through season 2 with Evo, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that would bring the total number of Bangkok podcast episodes, regular and bonus, to 885.
Wow.
Not including this one.
Wow. So we're approaching 900.
Yeah. Insane. So, the first regular episode was released on May 16th, 2010. That was with Tony and me. The first bonus episode, that was released on July 3rd, 2017. And the title of that one, was Crazy Old Chinese Ladies and Big Dildos. So I have no idea what we were talking about.
There's a trivia question out for you. What was the name of the first bonus show?
I don't even know what was going on there. So as of tonight, as of this episode, the total number of listens that Libsyn tells us we've had on all of those 524 main shows is 1,668,556.
Wow. So that's people who've streamed the show or downloaded it.
Yes, that's right.
Wow. 1.6 million.
Almost 1.7. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Cool. Now, Joe Rogan gets that in a weekend, so, it's all relative, but still,
right.
For two assholes who do this on their evening in spare time, not so bad.
Huge.
And I broke it down a little bit roughly because there wasn't a way to get this exactly, but considering that every main episode is about 45 minutes and every bonus show is about 40 minutes or so, so for the main shows, that totals 23,535 minutes or 392 hours.
Wow.
Of content. The bonus shows would come out to 14,440 minutes or 240 hours. Totals, that is 37,975 minutes or 632 hours of total content. 600
hours of content that, I mean, basically you've had a hand in all of that. That's crazy. That's a lot of Greg.
Some would say too much. Even my mom is like, all right, let's take it down a notch. But yeah, man, I think that's great. And we've covered a vast number of topics and talked to a really, really huge number of awesome people. And I got to say, just when I think that we're getting to the end of the road, I'm like, man, I don't know if we can come up with any more topics. We
still come up with more.
Find some s'mores. Yeah.
That tells you how complex and deep Thai culture and society is, man. There's always a new topic.
That's right. And you know what else is interesting about this is that we do not generally touch the nightlife party red light district stuff.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And we still come up with stuff to talk about.
Yeah. And I remember back in the day when I was just starting to do this, I told someone who had been here for a long time, I said, "Oh, we're doing a podcast." And he's like, "Oh, that sounds interesting. So what are you going to talk about?" And I told him, and he's like, "And nothing about like the titty bars, the go-go bars, the red lights." And I was like, "No, we're not going to focus on that." And he was like, "Good luck."
Oh yeah. Right.
So
well, that's the problem. I mean, that's the purpose of this whole podcast is to disabuse people of that idea that's
exactly
like that's the special thing about Thailand.
Exactly. Yeah. So good times, man. We've done a good job, and here's to. I don't know if I want to do 8 more seasons, but we'll see how things go. And of course, as we know, the show has always been a 2-man production. And as is tradition, we like to check in with the previous co-hosts of the first episode of every season. So as it happens, totally by coincidence, co-founder and season 1 co-host Tony Joh was in town the other week. So him, myself, you, Ed, and our old friend Phra Pandit, who was a guest in season 1 as well. We all went out for a nice lunch the other week and sat down afterward to discuss podcasting, Bangkok, and whether or not monks can ride elephants, asking the big questions here. So let's check in with Tony. And then after that, we'll have another interview before we close things out. So here we go. All right. Well, as promised, we are starting off season 8, my God, with a bang. And we thought it would be fun to talk with someone from the show's far-flung past, which longtime listeners may be familiar with. This is the Bangkok Podcast co-founder and owner of the URL, Mr. Tony Joh. Tony, welcome back to Bangkok.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah.
We're also happen to be sitting down here with seasons 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 co-host Ed.
Basically, I have nothing to say, so here I am for season 8.
And also, we are sitting here with one of our most longtime guests, the venerable Phra Pandit. Phra Pandit.
It's a pleasure to have me here.
It is. You got to come up with a new anecdote. You always say that.
And he was a season 1 guest, is that correct?
Phra Pandit was in season 1.
I was right there at the start.
Yeah.
So he's been. So that means he's been in every season.
In every single season, you're like the 5th Beatle. Well, Tony, let's get you first. What's going on? How are you doing? You're still in Canada, and why are you here? And give us an update, man. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, Canada is very organized, and I miss a little bit of chaos. So I thought, you know what? Let me go fly halfway across the world and get some chaos. No, it's a boring story, but I'm literally doing the longest visa run ever on my way to Japan to secure my permanent resident visa over there. So I'm going there, and then I thought, if I'm in this part of the world, I might as well pop over to Thailand for a few days, and then go back to Japan, then go back to Canada.
Right. So what's more of a pain in the ass, dealing with Japanese bureaucracy and getting those kind of things done, or are you dealing with Thai, as you remember? Or is it 6 of one, half dozen of the other?
It's got worse in Thailand since you were here. More and more layers.
Really?
Yeah, definitely.
Or what about Canadian bureaucracy?
Yeah, I was thinking about that like the other day when I was in Japan. Like, I think I'm a person who I want to be a person who I don't like the people who are like the grass is green on the other side mentality, right? You see those people move here, right? I got so many problems in my country. I'm gonna go to Thailand.
Right.
We've talked about that before. They just bring their problems here, and then it gets worse because of all the stuff going on here, right? So I never want to be like that person, but I do kind of feel like I get a little bit restless if I stay stationary too long. So I was actually thinking about that when I arrived in Japan. It's like, when I got to Japan, like, everything works here. Airport's so clean. Everything's nice. And then I remember, no, wait a minute. I hate working in this stupid country. I don't like it here. I didn't like working there. That's why I left and went back to Canada. And then I get to Thailand here, and it's all chaotic and crazy. I'm like, this is what I need. No bureaucracy, just chaos. And then like trying to figure out how to get to Greg's place, which is in the middle of nowhere compared to like where I am. I'm like, how the hell do I get over there? Like, So I don't know. Like, it's hard to say. Like,
Maybe you're a rolling stone.
yeah. I think that's it. You know, like I'm just kind of like I can't find the ideal. I don't think there's an ideal country. Like the Canadian bureaucracy is annoying because they're just full of bureaucrats who are annoying. You know, the Japanese one is annoying, but it's procedural. So all you have to do is figure out the procedure, and then it's done. And the Taiwan, I think it largely depends on the person you're dealing with and what kind of day they're having, right?
Yeah,
so,
make up the rules as you go.
Yeah, so I don't know which one is better, which one's worse.
The Taiwan has the most amount of paperwork in terms of quantity. A shocking. Just when I got my Thai driver's license, it was probably 18 pages of stuff.
Right. And what about when you join the monkhood? Is it like a relief? Like, oh, I don't have to deal with any of this.
Yeah, originally they bent over backwards for monks once a year, get a few signatures, but now you've got layers and layers and layers of this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So it takes me like 2 months running around every year, plus you TM30s and 90 days and all that. And it's definitely got a lot worse in this country.
When what's the TM? The TM6 is the landlord? No, the TM30 is the landlord.
TM30 is the landlord one.
Wouldn't your landlord be the Buddha?
Very funny.
What? You're living in his house, right?
Maybe I should try that. Yeah.
Well, what are you up to in Canada, man? What's keeping you busy these days?
Well, I'm working kind of in the same field, the digital marketing, but focusing more specifically, kind of actually in the tourism, same in the tourism, because I was doing tourism in Japan. And I had an interesting situation there because I was working in the tourism business because all these Japanese companies were spending a fortune, you know, leading up to the Olympics. They don't know how to do any marketing. They don't know how to deal with foreigners. So they were hiring people like me, you know, because they thought this big windfall was going to come in. Then, as we know, COVID-19 came along and put the kibosh on that.
Yeah, put a kibosh on a lot of things.
And killed the tourism business I started. So I went back to Canada, bought a motorcycle, rode around Canada for a bit because we couldn't leave the country. It was restricted. And so I really enjoyed that. So I've been working in the kind of tourism sector, but focused on the motorcycle adventure tour business.
Your motorcycle videos are great. And listeners, you have to check them out on Anthony Joh.
Yeah, Anthony Joh on YouTube.
Yeah.
Back in the day, did you ride around Thailand? Was that a thing you did?
No, I did that. I just did that when I got to Canada because, you know, when I lived in Japan, when I lived in Thailand, I did a lot more international travel. But when I got back to Canada, we couldn't do any international travel. And so I thought, oh, well, I might as well buy a motorbike and travel around Canada and see what it's like. And that kind of kicked that off. That video did pretty well. And so I've gone down to Mexico. I've gone up to Alaska, traveled throughout the Western United States a bit. And I think next year I'll probably try going over to Europe and drive around there.
Nice.
So you and McGregor and Charlie Borman are stealing your thunder with their long way.
Yeah.
Around and up and down.
With their production crew following them. I mean, just a single solo rider, right? Like,
yeah, right. You're doing it old school. That's really cool. You should go to northern Thailand. Has some amazing roads. The roads up there are surprisingly awesome for motorcycle touring.
Built by the U.S. military in the Vietnam War.
Really?
Is it really?
A lot of them, yeah.
Oh, well, maintained by the roads department of Thailand, whatever it is. And how about you?
No, I'm not keen on motorbikes.
No?
Never was.
No. You walked here today, though. You didn't take a motorcycle.
Yeah, well, monks are not allowed to ride bicycles or motorbikes. Now, the question whether we can ride on the back of a motorcycle is another thing. Officially, I think we're not supposed to, but when it's in small soys, you can. But you really have to go side saddle. Yeah, which is, yeah, and you really got to like scrunch the robes up because they can get caught in the spokes and yank you off the bike. A couple of people died that way. But then you can really see the upcountry monks when they just like hook their legs straight over the back of a bike and ride on it. So we're not supposed to do that, no, which is a shame because bicycles are quite good fun. I actually went on my first bike in 30 years on the beach in Hua Hin recently. And it was in a private house. And I just wanted to have a go on the bike, see if I could still do it. And they're amazing, the modern bikes. Like, they're not like the old Sturmey Archer geared things that I used to ride. And so I waited till the middle of the night when the tide had gone out and the sand was hard and flat. And I went out onto the beach and I raced up and down like Gandalf the Orange. I just like feeling the wind as a child. It just felt amazing to be on a bicycle.
That's a great scene in a movie. I
wish we could do that.
Yeah,
we got to make a short film.
Somehow, like the Knight Rider.
The beach The beach invader.
Is there a
why I
reason
did
why?
it in the middle of the night on the beach, was so that none of you are going to take pictures of it.
Is there a reason why you're not allowed to ride a bicycle?
It's just the interpretation of the rules, and the interpretations vary.
Could you ride a horse? Or you have to walk everywhere?
Again, interpretations would vary. I haven't come across too many horses, so I haven't seen
You see,
the rules on that.
these are the questions that the layman want to know.
Yeah.
Before we were
Can
talking
you ride a
here,
horse?
Phra Pandit said he wanted to do an upcoming show, but he doesn't want to do it with me. He wants to do it with Ed because Ed knows much more about this stuff than I do, which is totally fair criticism. And he said, you always ask me questions about can monks do this and can monks do that? Which
How
I
about
think-
elephants? Can
I
monks
am
ride
also really
elephants?
curious.
Or is it
Yeah, elephants
similar
must be an exception.
to horses?
Well, you can ride as a passenger. I'm not sure you're supposed to drive it. But then monks do use diggers and things in the temple.
they use
and-
machines, you mean?
Yeah, and quad bikes and things like that. So, I mean, it's very wishy-washy. It just depends.
Can
where
monks
you are.
can monks just drive, straight up drive a regular car?
Not, I mean, you can legally as a human being with a license, but no, monks aren't supposed to do that.
Are you not supposed to drive?
But again, that depends. Sri Lanka, they do. A lot of Thai monks, when they go abroad, they do.
I see.
You're
bet
just
he's-
supposed to float around, right? You just gotta
Cross your legs.
You have to hover. You just hover
Hover
around.
energy.
to wherever you want to
It must be
go.
way easier to ride an elephant side saddle than
But you
this
can sit in the
motorcycle.
back of a taxi, of course. This you can do.
Man, you guys are really interested in what kind of transport we
In
can take.
minutia of
This
a
is
monk's
what happens
life.
when I come back to Bangkok. Greg and I start talking. The level of intelligence goes way down. So when you walk, which side do you carry your bag on there?
Are you allowed to read comics? So, Tony, is there a podcast scene in Canada? Like, is there a Victoria podcast?
It's huge,
or a,
yeah.
is
It's
there
because
really?
it's Joe Rogan's show. Everyone wants to do a podcast now.
I thought that was because of COVID. Everyone wanted to bake bread and everyone wanted to make a podcast. And so you had 10,000 new podcasts that have 3 episodes. And people
Yeah.
are like,
Guitar sales exploded during COVID.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with motorcycle sales, like really just took off because people were getting checks from the government. And
Oh, yeah,
so
right.
everyone was just buying guitars, motorcycles, or whatever. But I think because Joe Rogan was, his podcast was purchased by Spotify for hundreds of millions of dollars. And then
Yeah.
now everybody wants to start a podcast. It's all video. Very few people want to do audio. It's all video.
We know.
When they say
We know.
podcast now, it's like literally video on YouTube.
Yeah, it's interesting how the word has shifted. And we tried doing that a while ago for our patrons. We did some video content, but really for us, it's just talking heads on a video screen. It's not really that compelling viewing. If we had a cool studio or a wicked space to sit in or something, it might be cool.
But didn't Joe Rogan, he's off Spotify now. He's put it all back on YouTube.
Is
Yeah.
it really?
I think
Oh,
he's
didn't
still
know.
on Spotify, but then for some reason he's now allowed to put it on
not
YouTube
exclusive
as well.
anymore.
That's right.
It just didn't work out for Spotify. They tried to be a big podcaster platform, and it failed. So he's back on YouTube for free.
Same with one of my favorite podcasts is called The Last Podcast on the Left. And they did an exclusive deal with Spotify as well. And then that lasted about a year and then they went back to normal. So anyway, we're still waiting for the Joe Rogan money to roll in for the Bangkok podcast.
We are still waiting. There's no
Any
doubt
day
about
now.
that.
Any day now, people. It's only been 8 years.
Look, Joe Rogan sold for 100 million. We'll go way lower than that. Let's just
Yeah.
Couple hundred baht, we're good.
I basically do podcasts for lunch.
yeah. That's your payment. Fair enough. Well, Tony, what's coming up for the next year for you? Are you going to be back here? Is this a scouting mission of any kind, or thinking of new adventures?
Not particularly. No, my direction right now is to try to move towards Europe. I want to live in Europe again. So, but it's a little bit tricky with visa and whatnot, So I'm kind of heading in that direction. But because I have this permanent resident visa in Japan, Japan might also end up being a possibility, like way down the line.
All right. Well, then Tokyo podcast season, whatever.
22 or something like that. Who knows? Maybe I'll end up in Thailand. I don't know. But it's actually kind of interesting to see kind of how much Bangkok has changed. Because I was here maybe about 5 or 6 years ago.
Right. What's your take?
And well, the first thing that kind of surprised me was the airport. I remember when I first came here in 2007 or so, the customs and immigration at the airport was just literally a dude in a desk. Like, just kind of took my passport and stamped it, whatever. And now they got this whole row of kiosks there. It's all electronic and all that. And then I had to do some kind of thingy online, some kind of
Oh yeah, the
I don't know what
TM6, the
new
digital
digital
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
6 form,
Which,
yeah.
which in typical Thai fashion, when I got to the desk, I'm like, "Do you need this?" And she's like, "No, passport." And I'm like, "Oh, whatever." Okay, so they didn't even look at it. So I'm like, "Oh, what was the point of that?" Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see that. And one thing I really think Bangkok needs is really lacking though is more shopping malls.
Yeah.
Because on Sukhumvit where I'm staying, there's just not enough malls there.
I think we need another big giant
Another
one.
big giant one, just to fill up that little tiny spot between the other two big giant ones. But it is kind of interesting to see like that area develop. It's kind of good and bad there because like where I stay in Tonglo area and on Sukhumvit, I think some 39 as there is. There used to be this fantastic noodle shop place. I think we've eaten there a couple times before.
Oh, 38, just on the other side of
38,
Tonglo?
Yeah. There's like this noodle shop. I remember I used to go there all the time and get like the noodles and the
There's
sticky rice.
famous
and
food court there.
Yeah,
Famous food
and
court.
then there's a condo now. And
Yeah,
so I'm
the
like,
boat-
where did this go? And everywhere I look, it's just condo. And so it's like, okay, great. It's getting more modern, getting more developed. But I want that, the food
Yeah.
shops, like that.
Yeah,
to me,
the
that's
organic,
Bangkok.
the local organic
Yeah.
stuff.
And maybe it's somewhere else. Maybe I just don't know, right? But it just seems like every time I go down there, it's like I got to find a new local food
a new
shop
local.
to try to find,
They've really over the past few years they've really made a persistent effort to scale back the street stuff. I think that they want to push it all into local centers, sort of like a Singapore model. I think that's the eventual idea, but I don't know how successful it's going to be.
This side of the river has changed a lot.
Yeah.
Over here, you would never see a coffee shop. We had no SkyTrain for many years, no underground. You would very rarely see a Westerner ever. And now my temple here, we have a couple of thousand visitors every day. There's foreigners walking around, Chinese, Japanese, Westerners everywhere, and all the shops have changed.
Yeah, I will defend malls a little bit though. As when you have a family, they make a huge difference. Versus, hey, do you want it's a pitch to your kid. Hey, do you want to go and run around outside and sweat and get like red in the face and tired, or do you want to go to the mall and go to a restaurant and see a movie and go to the playground indoors where it's air conditioned?
Well, remember
Makes
when
a
I
big
first
difference.
moved to Bangkok, I didn't really know what to do, where to go, whatever. So I would go watch a movie just to basically get inside. I think it was like 150 baht or
Yeah,
something
you'd go
like
and
that.
nap in the movie
Yeah,
theater.
I'd go nap in the back. And in the very back, they have the chairs that are like almost like a sofa, right?
Yeah.
The long ones. And it was so cheap. Like Canada is $15 for a movie ticket. That's like what, 300, 400 baht or whatever. And it was like, I don't know, 35, 50 baht or whatever it was back then. And so I would just go sit in the back and sleep and get some air conditioning. And I thought, this is fantastic.
That's great.
Yeah, well, the city's gone big. I don't know if you've seen One Bangkok right down on the end of, right across the street from Lumpini Park on Ramaphore Road. It's a gigantic new office, condo, shopping complex. Like it's a little city. It's like something out of RoboCop in the middle of
Right.
The city. So it's growing up and it's developing fast.
We should do a show from there because I've only driven past. I haven't wandered around in there. Maybe we should go wander around.
Well, when we get that Rogan money, that's where our new headquarters are going to be, right on the top floor.
It'd be interesting to see kind of the direction of Bangkok because walking around my area, which is like that Tonglo area, I see like this Porsche cafe and all these really high-end shops. And then across the street, you see like some noodle shop, like a street stall, whatever. So like the income spread between those customers and not customers is massive, right? So
Yeah,
I'd be
Thailand's
curious.
always been like, that was one of my first impressions of Thailand that I couldn't believe. Very, as Thai people would
Yeah,
say, a
like-
high-so thing, and then like working class right next to each other. That's a very
like you don't see that too much in the West. So I'd be curious as to what that spread is. Is it growing? Is it shrinking? Or is everyone like obviously there's a lot of money flowing in here, a lot of shopping malls and condos going up everywhere. Is that benefiting everyone? Is it benefiting a few? Who's buying these
We need an
things?
economist.
I have no idea.
I would say a few.
A few.
That's
There's
my
tons of
guess.
construction at your temple too going on too. Every time I go there's new buildings going up. There's renovations, new parking lots, new roads being paved and cleared.
Yeah, they all come for the giant golden Buddha image, which has been fenced off for the last year
Right.
because the paint, which is only 2 years old, all peeled off.
Right.
Oh,
And so they closed it off, and then we couldn't get new paint due to it being stuck in customs. It comes over from China, but
for unknown reasons.
for unknown reasons.
Ajahn, is the increased tourism at your temple due to the statue a good thing or a bad thing for your community?
It's hard to say. I mean, you've got to imagine it's a good thing, but I'd say there's a lot of increased traffic all over Tonbury. Somewhere near me, there's a little art village, and you've got to go down some little funky footpaths and find all these little funky art shops, and it's still packed with tourists. So, I mean, it's good that this side of the river is now developed. There's things to do over here.
I'm not sure if you know, but they're just a few blocks away from down on Charon Krung here, or Charon Nakhon. They're building the giant new Ministry of Interior headquarters.
Yeah, it's immense.
It's gonna
Another
be huge,
immense government
6
building.
office buildings, yeah. So
What do you guys think of, like the guys who live here, have been here a long time? What do you think of all these digital nomad and people living here, moving here?
Greg
whatnot?
loves them. He's always been super pro.
Like when
digital
I was
nomad.
searching on YouTube recently for some of my old videos, and like I'm buried on page like 387 now, right? And there's like no amount of YouTubers living in Bangkok now telling you how to take a taxi, how to go here, and all this other kind of stuff.
I think it's crazy oversaturated.
Yeah.
There are some top ones, Bangkok Pat, and I don't know if Retired Working for You is still doing the videos.
Yeah, he's still making some.
Is he? I don't know. I don't watch YouTube very much. But
What do you guys think of all the foreigners moving here now? You guys feel like the OG, the old grandpa, get off my lawn type of thing?
yeah, you eventually morph into that guy. When I was here, you should have been here 20 years ago. It's inevitable, I guess, and every generation has their own thing. And it's just a bit funny now when you see guys, I'm going to show you the craziest neighborhood. It's called Talad Noi. It's like, dude, I used to live there 25 years ago. It's not new.
Right.
But, it just reminds you that everything just goes in cycles. When I got here and when we started the podcast and it was crazy new neighborhood, I'm sure someone heard it and was like, bitches, that's been here for 20 years. I was there in 1975.
It's so funny to me, like how my experience when I first came to Thailand different than now. Like, where was I the other day? I was like, I was trying to find my hotel. I was just walking around some back alley. I couldn't quite find it, and not a concern in the world, I'm not worried about it at all. And the first time I came here, first time I went to Greg's place, Greg had a party at his place.
That's where we met.
That's where we met. And he invited me to his party. And I don't know where it was, but I remember taking a taxi and the taxi stopped and he's like, points down there. I was like, oh, go down there. So I'm walking down towards Greg's place. And it's like this super sketchy looking neighborhood. There's like an auto body shop, like car parts everywhere.
That was Talad Noi, which is now one of the hippest neighborhoods in
like,
Bangkok.
That's right.
Am I going to make it to the end of this alley? Like I was super sketched out, But now I'm like, whatever. Nothing bothers me anymore.
Yeah, when you're noob, that could be scary. But now Talad Noi is mega hip. Like tons of cool coffee shops and restaurants.
Really?
That whole neighborhood is gone.
It's funny how your perception of things change,
Yeah.
because I could go back to that neighborhood now and that old grungy area and be like, whatever. So.
Yeah.
It's funny though, even the grungiest area that I've ever found in Bangkok or in Thailand never ever felt unsafe.
Agreed.
Ever.
Agreed. Yeah.
As a monk, though, or would you feel the same if you weren't a monk?
What's funny is that there was, I was walking somewhere and there's a big kerfuffle on the streets and there's a guy with a knife and he was obviously getting really violent and a couple of people were being terrified by him and then a whole bunch of others were trying to calm him down. And I walked along and they all went, shh. And the guy put the knife behind his back and everybody stood there kind of politely and said, on your way, Lumpy, on your way. And then they carried on the kerfuffle after I'd walked past.
That's great.
This is a step, a bite. There's white privilege and then there's white monk privilege. Yeah. It's like the ultimate.
All the times I think,
That's a very Thai
the
story.
monk will take care of it. Everyone be quiet. Monk will take care. And Pandit's like, please don't stab me. Please don't stab me. Please don't stab me.
Don't carry any money.
I'm just going to keep walking through. Okay, see ya.
I felt unsafe in a couple of places in Sydney, Australia.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
And in Canada when you were there?
I don't think I saw a person, so it was...
Yeah, we stay inside. It was a bit nippy outside, so don't go out. Well, Tony, thanks for checking in, man. It's a pleasure to see you, even though it's just for a quick lunch and a quick sit down.
Yeah.
But good luck on your adventures in Japan with their bureaucracy and getting your paperwork sorted out. And if it doesn't work out, come back here.
Come back.
Yeah, good to see you, man. Thanks for the update.
Yeah, good to see you guys again.
Ed, Phra Pandit, thank you very much for joining as well.
Okay. Take care, Tony. Man, it was really good to see Tony. I never hung out with him that much back in the day. I just met him a few times. So it's good to touch base.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a funny thing about me and Tony. Like, we did the show for a whole year, and we had almost no overlap in our social lives. Like, we hardly ever saw each other outside of official podcast stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing the same. I'm guessing the same is true of Phra Pandit. You guys probably don't hang out at the same bars.
No, we know there's not a lot of overlap there. The Venn diagrams don't touch. But yeah, great to see Tony, and also great to always sit down with Phra Pandit too.
Of course, sure.
Yeah. And of course, we can't close out the episode without checking in with our good pal Evo Terra, who was the co-host for season 2. As I mentioned, we did that show for about a year before he moved back to the US of A, where he still is. So Ed and I jumped on a call with him last week to see how things are going. So here's our chat with Sir Evo Terra. All right. Well, as we like to do on the first episode of every new season, we are lucky to have on the phone our old pal to catch up with and see what's going on. Welcome back to the Bangkok Podcast, Season 2 co-host, Evo Terra. Evo, good to see you again, man.
Hey, Greg, lovely to see you as well and chat with you. Ed, pleasure, as always, my friend.
The podfather.
I think that's Adam Curry has that particular term, but yes, nonetheless, still, I'm an old man of podcasting. That is for sure.
So, what have you been up to, man? You're in Arizona right now, like, because for those that don't know, Evo sort of helped me resurrect the podcast in season 2. We did it for over a year. And then you went back to the U.S. to be with your son and his brand new baby. So,
yep.
Where are you, man? Give us an update of what the past few years has been like.
Well, that brand new baby is going to be 7.
Wow.
Jesus.
She's going to be 7 in about 10 days.
So wow, you left. So you left 7 years ago.
Well, yeah, but actually, I left. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I think I left like in February, and that of the year that she was born in July. So yeah, it's been that long since I have been back to the land of smiles. But yes, I'm back here in Phoenix because that's where the kid is and the kid's kid. They are here in this general area. So it's where we were from originally when we made the move to Bangkok. So we know the area quite well. So it is our home, I guess, even though the only family we have is our kid and his family. So yeah, and it's also going to be 41 today. So there's that. Yeah.
41 degrees Celsius.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yes.
But it's a dry heat.
It's a dry heat.
That's the only thing I know about Arizona is that phrase. It's a dry heat.
That's right.
And so as I tell people, so is your oven. So,
that's right. That's right.
And you're still rocking the podcast game. You're still doing that.
Yeah,
for people?
I certainly am. You know, when I was there with you, Greg, I launched my own podcast production company just as something to do to keep me out of the troubles, which are obviously rampant in Bangkok. But yeah, that company continues to go. I mean, it's what I do full time now. We're producing podcasts for people all around the world. In 2022, I was inducted into the Podcast Hall of Fame.
What?
For reals? For reals?
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. Here, I'll show you guys. We're on video. I'll show you guys my Podcast Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Very cool.
A trophy I got. Yeah. So, and yeah. So that was lovely to. I'm sorry for getting away from the microphone. That was lovely to be recognized by my peers for 20 some odd years I've been doing that. Yeah.
Let's do a little Evo origin story because I know I heard it back in the day.
Yeah.
But it's been so long that I bet a lot of our current listeners who may not have listened to those old shows, they may not know your origin story in podcasting and why I joked and called you the podfather. So what?
Yeah. All right.
Why don't you tell the current listeners the Evo story?
Yeah. So I started doing an internet radio show way back in 2022 where we were burning discs on.
Wait, you mean 2002?
2002. If I didn't say that properly. Yeah. Back in 2002, internet radio show, burning our episodes onto CDs and mailing them out to 6 different stations around the country. It was the weirdest thing in the world. I know. Totally insane. And then in 2004, in October 14th of 2004, we converted that into a podcast, and I had the 40th podcast ever because October 14th in 2004, there were not very many podcasters that were out there doing it.
So that was actually a new word, right? So podcasting was actually a new word, a neologism.
Yeah, it certainly was. Yeah, there are a couple of different origin stories from where it came from, but it all started in the '04, and I was one of the early dogs doing that. And I think what really solidified that is in 2005, I was asked to write Podcasting for Dummies, the first edition. So I co-authored that. And also part of the second edition, and in fact, I think the fourth or the fifth edition of Podcasting for Dummies just came out last year, and I was asked by the two hosts, the two writers that are working on it now, to write the introduction. So that was lovely.
Oh, cool.
So I could do that.
Nice.
Yeah. So lots of stuff, interviewing science fiction authors is how I got started. I transitioned to helping a lot of independent fiction authors make their own podcasts out of the novels they had written. This was way before there was an Amazon that was selling ebooks in 2004. That didn't exist. Right. So yeah, I said, hey, why don't you just read your stuff into a microphone and release it as a serialized audiobook or a podcast? And about 700 people did. And so we helped them do that for a number of years. And now what I'm doing mostly in the podcast world, other than my podcast consultancy, is I curate fiction podcasts. So think audio dramas, think, that kind of stuff, even audiobooks for that matter, fiction podcasts, we call them. And now I have a website called The End, which is at theend.fyi, where I have almost 1,400 serialized audio dramas that are there. And the special thing about those 1,400 is they are all complete. You don't have to wait for weeks or months, oftentimes, as it takes some of these shows to do it. So yeah, everything has at least reached a season finale, and a great many of them are a complete series. So you can go listen to a fiction show in confidence, knowing that there is at least a end in sight. It might not be the only end in sight, but nonetheless, it is there.
So Evo, are those fiction books that were written first and then turned into an audio drama, or are these original audio dramas?
It's a mix. Back in the early days, it was exactly the first thing you said, Ed. It is an author reading their own audiobook, or an author who takes their audiobook or their written novel and then dramatizes it and gives it to a cast, which obviously takes a long time to produce. It used to be most of them were just single read audiobooks or narrated simple, but now it is overwhelmingly full cast audio drama. Which is completely serialized. Like I'm listening to a show right now called Sherlock & Co. It is very reminiscent of the BBC reboot of Sherlock with Bemberdack Cumbersnatch or whatever his name is back in the day. In fact, the two authors sound exactly like the actors there, and it is completely. There's no description. There's never a narrator coming along and saying, now they're walking through the field or what. It's all them. It's all complete. Gotcha. And it is amazing. It is the highest quality thing I've ever heard. So it's just like that Sherlock show, except it's a bit funnier, but it's still got some serious, pretty wacky stuff. So anyhow, that's what I'm doing these days.
And you're still producing straight up podcasts. So you're producing podcasts similar to Bangkok Podcast, where it's just two dudes talking. Are you still doing that?
Luckily, very little of that. What I'm doing, because that's just hobby type stuff, right? But I do have all of my work is with businesses. So businesses who want to have a podcast. Like tomorrow, I'm chatting with a client that I have produced 3 different seasons of her show. She is a headhunter. She places executives in firms, and every year she produces between a 7 to 10 hour series of shows where she is interviewing her client. So it's similar to the Bangkok podcast, but more just the segment where you actually have a guest, where you're interviewing for that particular guest. I produce that for her, and then I've got a variety of clients that just do narrated show where they have a topic that they want to talk about that's germane to their business, and they talk about it. And we've produced shows for big companies like SAP that are super complicated. We're interviewing 20 different guests over the course of 10 episodes and weaving their words in together more like a little NPR special or something. But yeah, that's what we're doing, making podcasts for businesses.
And is your jam still more audio only, or are you producing video podcasts? Because when I talk to younger people, a lot of times if I mention podcast, they assume it's video.
Yeah.
Like Joe Rogan, they think it's like we're doing Joe Rogan style stuff.
Yeah. No, they do. You're right. I just finished the first part of 2025. I was asked by Arizona State University to teach a class on podcasting. This class is already developed. They had been doing it for part of their journalism school. So I was literally just the person walking in and saying, "Did you do your reading? Okay, here's what I want you to know that's different because I do things differently." That kind of stuff. But yeah, when I asked the question, what podcast do you listen to? I think 3 out of the 5 students that I had only ever watched it video and only ever watched it on YouTube with clips, right? They're not even subscribed to the show. They didn't get. So I had to do a lot of education around that one. So everything I'm doing right now, I'm still audio only. I've dabbled in video and I'm just not, well, it's not where my passion lies. And also we can make a business podcast sound great without spending a fortune. That is not true in video.
Right.
For a business podcast in video to really match the brand. I mean, it's easy to put up a split screen and dump it up to YouTube, but come on. That was the original. Yeah. That was the original, way we did podcasts back in the day, where you're just, chatting back and forth and upload the audio. Season 1 Bangkok podcast. Really, but to put production value into it, it just takes so much more money and time in video. And look, the reality is still more than 99% of podcast consumption, for real podcast consumption, not just the occasional clip you see here and there. It's still all audio. Audio still wins in the podcasting space.
I just have I'm kind of hooked on the idea of Evo and Reed Hastings from Netflix being the only ones sending out CDs in 2002.
Yeah. The weird thing was I sent that CD out. One of the companies we sent it to was XM.
Oh, no way.
Oh, XM Radio. Wow.
We'd send a CD of an MP2 file, not even an MP3 file. It was an MP2 file. Weird.
That's old school.
To San Francisco. They would then take it and shoot it up to a satellite in space. Wildest thing, man. Early 2000s for the win, right there.
It's funny. I was at a hospital. I went to the hospital the other day and I had to get some scans done or something. And they gave me at the end of it, I paid and they gave me a CD of my scan. And I was like,
well, that happened to me last year.
And I was like,
what do I do with that? Yeah.
I said, I haven't had a CD player in my house in 10 years. Nope. Does anyone really need these? And I said, can you put it on a thumb drive at least? They're like, can you email it to me?
Discs are old school. Discs are super old school.
I finally got it.
It is insane. It is. Yeah, I think I'd have better luck listening to a cassette tape than I would listening to a CD because I got nothing.
How do you and your lovely bride Sheila look back on Bangkok and think about it? Do you miss it at all? Do you miss the chaos? What do you think?
Beautiful chaos.
What do you think about fondly? Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware, but America is going through quite a bit of chaos at the current moment.
True that.
Other than that, so we talk about it, frequently. We made Bangkok our home for 3 years, I think. And it was great to be there and be in it. And clearly, we love the people. We miss the food, the smells and the sights, and there's just always something going on in the big city. However, we live in Phoenix, and Phoenix is the 5th largest metroplex in America. So we are not in a small place, but it's really, really spread out and sprawled. We live in downtown Phoenix, right next to the gayborhood, as we call it, which is the Melrose Curve, which is one of the gay districts here in town, which is great. So there's always something fun and interesting going on. Right. And we still travel a lot. I just got back from a vacation in Belize. But there's a lot about Bangkok that we miss. There's a lot about Bangkok we don't miss, but it was a fun, wonderful time, and we've had this conversation. I don't know, several times a year, every time the year rolls around, whatever. That we wouldn't have traded that for the world. It was the greatest decision we had to go travel for the first year and then live in Bangkok. It was a wonderful experience that we look back on fondly, even though every good Thai restaurant in Thai is sick of hearing me try to remember how to pronounce things.
That's so funny.
Plus, you met Greg. You met Greg here in Bangkok, so.
And the weird thing about that, Greg, I don't know if you remember this or not. We met before I moved to Bangkok. We met in 2015 when Sheila and I were there on a house sit. And we were going to the TBEX travel blog conference, and somebody said, "Oh, there's a travel blogger and podcaster." Actually, I think at the time they said a travel blogger you should know. This guy's called BKK Greg, and so somebody set up a meeting for us, and I think we had pizza together in what was the big mall, baby?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
that's wild.
It was wild, yeah. And then 5 months later, I don't think it was that long later, got back in town. I said, "Hey, I'm back." He said, "Oh, cool, let's get together." And that's the time when he said, "Oh, I do the Bangkok podcast." It's like, well, this is kismet. This is fate dropping it here.
I have no recollection of meeting you for pizza. What is wrong with me?
I didn't know Greg was that well known of a travel blogger. I thought he was a nobody.
I think it was it was mostly Twitter before Twitter became shitter, so I think that's where the person knew from, because BKK Greg was pretty popular on the platform
back before I had a kid and everything like that.
True. This is true.
Social life was pretty active, but that having a kid put a kibosh on a couple of things.
I always used to call Greg the connector.
I was.
That's true.
Nice.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that's we definitely look back on our time fondly and keep talking about, can we go back? Or what the great is watching TV shows. Like the latest season of White Lotus was
right.
We filmed in Koh Samui, so that was fun. Can pick up a little bit of words here and there. So
yeah,
cool.
Yeah. All the swear words, probably, no doubt.
Yeah. Mostly those. So I good.
Well, Evo, thanks, man. I don't want to keep you too long, and we don't want to. We don't want to have a 2-hour long intro show to the 8th season. Can you believe we're starting the 8th season?
Damn.
I know.
Insane.
Actually, I think what you mean is you don't want to spend time editing this down to like 2 or 3 minutes. So that's,
hey, man, we've all done editing. We all know the honest truth, right?
Well, congrats on the 8th season coming up, guys. That is fantastic, and I'm glad that it's kept going.
Yeah, well, cool. we all played a pretty important role in that, so let's just all pat each other on the back and
damn Skippy, yeah.
Bask in the bona fides. Well, man, thank you very much for joining us. It's great to catch up, albeit briefly. You just got back from Belize, so I bet you have a bunch of photos to go through and weed out the old ones and get rid of keep the good ones.
I will show you my picture of the white balls of a black howler monkey. I got a lot of those.
Oh, cool! Wow, just what I wanted to see.
Finally, Ed's dream come true. Well, thanks a lot, man. It's been nice to catch up with you. And what's the name of your website again, where people can get all those podcasts?
That is theend.fyi. Thanks,
that.
fellas. Cool. Good seeing you, Greg. Good seeing you, Ed.
Take care, man.
Thank you, Evo. Good to see you, man.
Cheers.
He is a badass.
That's right, man. Yeah, like he said, he had like the 40th podcast ever or something like that.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it might not sound like 40th seems like it's far down the list, but considering there's tens of thousands now, that's a pretty big deal.
It's so funny, right? Because we always say, like, even after 24 years, we still sometimes meet someone who's been here in Bangkok longer than us. And even after doing the podcast for so long, way longer than most people have ever done it, we still meet people like Evo, who's like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah, that's right. No, always good to catch up with him.
Yeah. Thanks for checking in, Evo. Great to see you and hear you, and also see your lovely wife Sheila, also a former guest herself on the Bangkok podcast, in the background too. Okay, well, we ask our listeners to send in a voicemail using the little microphone button on the website if they have something to say. And this week we heard from our pal Francesco. Take it away, Francesco.
Hey, Greg. Hey, Ed. This is Francesco from Madison, Wisconsin, and one of your listeners. Greg probably maybe remembers me for having a coffee last December in Bangkok. Anyway, we just finished listening to your episode about weddings. I almost have to disagree with both of you about weddings. Well, I guess I've never been to a Thai wedding, so I wouldn't know how that is. So I can't judge. But I was born and raised in Italy, and then moved to the United States when I was 25. I've been to a fair amount of both European weddings and American weddings, and then there is a huge difference, I think, between the two. I've been to some pretty depressing American weddings in general, and just cheap booze, cheap banquet, all cheap service, cheap everything. More like hillbillies weddings, I would call them. And I've been to some pretty sophisticated, and even when we're not sophisticated, pretty fun weddings in Italy. I can remember various. So I'm not sure American and European weddings are the same.
And you may have noticed there his call was cut short. So I sent Francesco a quick email and I was like, hey, your call cut out after you said this. What did you want to finish saying? So he sent me an email and he said, I've experienced weddings in both Europe and USA, and I think there are a lot of cultural differences. I was at some pretty scrumptious weddings in Italy when I was younger. Really good food, nice ceremony, cocktails outside a beautiful villa, dancing, etc. I also experienced very puzzling weddings in the US. Some I would just straight up call hillbilly weddings. I remember one in particular where the bride insisted on having a ceremony and dinner outdoors. It was late September, and the night before the wedding started pouring, so the next day all the guests were walking around in the mud just to be present. My girlfriend is still mad at me for a pair of shoes that she ruined that she had to throw away.
Yeah.
Overall, maybe it's just the care and thoughtfulness behind weddings that I appreciated in Italy, or maybe it's also a matter of money, whereas my experiences with weddings in the US hasn't been so good. It just seems like everybody wants to get drunk as soon and as fast as possible most of the time.
Well, I do think American weddings tend to, I don't want to say devolve, they evolve into semi-wild parties. You know, that's what we talked about last week. But man, you know, my only experience with an Italian wedding is in the movie The Godfather.
Oh, geez, that's not a wedding you want to emulate, is it?
No, it was a great wedding. Opening scene of The Godfather. It's great. It's a great scene.
I guess so. Technically, yes. And also our friend Jay wrote in as well about the same topic. And he mentioned his wedding that I went to, I don't know, it's probably about 10 years ago now. And he said, we had carnival games, dunk tanks, shooter girls, food booths, lucky draws, and a Luktung band with all the instruments and dancers. Our theme for dress was colorful and crazy. Not saying it was the world's best wedding, but I think we beat traditional Thai weddings by a good margin. And this is what I was saying too about how Thai weddings being more enjoyable. This one was just super creative and fun.
Now, was that in Bangkok, or was that? This sounds kind of like an Isan wedding if they had a Luktung band.
Kind of was,
yeah.
But it was in Bangkok. But I was saying, like I said to Jay, like if that was a Western wedding, you'd say like, oh, this makes sense if your friend was like one of the hippies or like the folk artists or like one of your strange funky friends, you know, like it wouldn't be a traditional wedding.
Gotcha. No, I think there's a lot of individual variation, of course. But man, that does sound like a fun wedding.
Yeah, it was real fun. And I'll put a couple of photos in there for our patrons too. There's some fun photos of me and our friend Scott, who was there with me as well.
Cool.
Yeah, so thanks to Francesco for sending in the voicemail and to Jay for sending a follow-up about his wedding as well. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Alrighty, a final thanks to our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping in our never-ending quest for cool content. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
That's right. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube. Send us a voicemail on our website. We'll feature on the show. Hit me up on Blue Sky. I am BKK Greg. Thank you for listening, everyone. Welcome to Season 8. I will see you back here next week.
No doubt. Hello.
Blammo. Betty Davis eyes.
Why did you think of that?
I just thought I was mindlessly scrolling through YouTube or Facebook earlier, and it had like, or it was Instagram, top 10 one-hit wonders of the 80s. And that was on there.
Was that a wonder? Who is that?
That's Kim Carnes.
Oh, Kim Carnes. That's right.
Yeah. She also had a song I remember hearing on the radio when I was a kid. It was called Monsters in the Closet or Monster in the Closet or something. And I remember thinking it was just an absolutely awesome song. I listened to it recently. Not so great.
Oh, really?
Same with We Built This City on Rock and Roll by Starship. Used to think it was one of the best songs ever made. And now I think it's officially known as the worst song ever written. So
it's kind of silly. You know.
We built this city on rock and roll. It's hard not to like. It's catchy.
Yeah. It's just not smart.
The 80s, man. That's the time.
Yep. Cheesy 80s.
That's right. Okay. Here we go.